Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're going to talk about CGC graded and how they've increased their costs across the board for all their grading services. Now, I have heard some people out there aren't super concerned about it. There are a few that are very worried. I think, the true fear or the true worry lies somewhere in between, from the good that could come of raising your prices, and yes, there will be some good potentially, and the bad. And, in this video, I'm going to talk about the gray area a little bit, what my concerns are, why you should be worried, why it might not just all be rainbows and sunshine on the other side of this, but also we'll talk about, the changes in the costs, and we'll talk about, my thoughts on this. I've always been a strong believer in the saying, if you don't learn from your history, history always has a way of repeating itself. And I think we're seeing that right now with what's happening with CGC. And, I'm pretty new to YouTube, and we're getting pretty close to hitting 100 subscribers. And, huge shout out to all you guys out there that are subscribed and supporting this channel. I really appreciate it. But I've come to notice, as I create videos, some videos age very well and some videos age poorly. And I haven't been making content that long. And, the videos that I've noticed age poorly are the videos where we talk about current prices, because right now, with the way Pokemon is, prices are increasing so rapidly that videos that I made, 2-3 weeks ago are so antiquated and outdated with the prices in it. It's crazy. But then there are some of my videos that I believe aged very well. And the video I'm talking to, I only made 15 days ago, and it was what I thought was the best investment of January 2021. And in that video, I said I thought the best investment was just to have your cards graded. And man, looking at what's happening now with the entire market, especially with the grading market, that video has actually aged pretty well. There's multiple factors that go into that, and it's one, the singles graded card market is exploding. Prices that some cards are reaching are at all-time highs. I recommend it to everyone. I didn't really care what you had to grade. Just have it graded if you thought it was worth graded. Does that mean you could just grade everything? No, probably not. But can you grade a lot of it? Yes. And CGC's price increase is very reminiscent to me of when GMA increased their prices. And if you guys are new to the channel or never even heard about GMA, that's fine. GMA is another card grading company at a very small time window. And I say small time window, I only mean like a month or two. I thought of them as a very good option before CGC started, getting into the card market. And the cost to grade cards there were $4.50 for bulk submissions. And so what did I do? I went out and I bought just a ton of cards, bulk cards, base set, jungle fossil. Bulk prices, I was getting them for about 20 cents a card at the time. And I went and I graded a bunch of those cards at $4.50. It was $4.50 to grade, about 20 cents a card to ship on average, and another 20 cents to buy those cards. I was all in with grading fees and cost of raw cards, $5.10. All day long, I was flipping those cards for between 10, 15, and some of the starter Pokemon have been selling for a crazy amount of money. But it took zero effort on me at all. And I took full advantage of that. And I don't feel bad for that. That was a smart move at the time. And then GMA's prices creeped up to $6 to bulk almost overnight. And I said, I don't think GMA is an option anymore. And that was when these videos started pushing CGC very strongly. And I actually have 2 submissions at CGC right now. And when I started pushing CGC, I haven't even got my first submission back. So that's how totally on board I went with CGC. Now, we've already seen CGC start to go down this slippery slope a little bit. Their turnaround times went from 30 days, and now across the board, they're increasing their prices. And I'm looking at GMA, and I don't care if you guys like GMA or not. That doesn't matter at all. I just want to compare the two companies. GMA went from a $4.50 bulk grading cost with 20-day turnaround times to $6 card costs with 45-day turnaround times. So they went from 20 to 45 days. CGC went from 30 days to 60 days, double. GMA went from $4.50 a card to $6 a card. GMA is going from $8 a card to bulk to $9 a card to bulk. Are they 100% similar? No. Is the quote-unquote perceived value of the cards equal? No way. But I just want to let you know that when a card grading company gets hot, this is not new. But with that said, now we're going to talk about, is it really a bad thing or potentially a good thing? You know, right now at $9 a card for bulk, and yes, I always talk about bulk costs because that's what most of my submissions are. I have a lot of patience. I don't mind, sending away a lot of cards at a time because when I send away bulk grades, I usually will sell my cards in small lots or individual. So it takes me a little while to work through all my graded bulk submissions and, put them back onto the secondary market. But at $9 a card, it doesn't crush trying to grade what I consider low-end cards. And talking about low-end cards are cards that, after grading, you may see, a 50 to 100% return on, your investment. And that goes for the cost of the card, grading fees. 50 to 100% is a very respectable number. Some cards are maybe a little less. Some cards are way more. It really depends on condition, how good your eyes are, and, what kind of feelings you have for the market and the indicators of what cards you think are going to explode. And I think that's true across the board, whether it's from vintage to modern to full arts to, VMAXs, secret rares, and every single card in between. If you were smart, you graded the right cards, you made money. And just think about, and I talk about it all the time, the crazy prices that, unlimited Bulbasaur, Charmanders, and Squirtles are going for. Those prices I thought, probably were a little unrealistic at the time, but people are definitely paying them. And the people who were really able to capitalize on those prices were the people that already had those cards graded and in hand because the way turnaround times are. Now, with CGC, we do have a new cost structure. So we'll go over bulk, it's $9, economy, $18 a card, standard, $25, express, $40, walkthrough, $75 a card. But now this is the big one here, where subgrades went from $5 to $7 a card. And there were some different people out there who said, the only thing that CGC is good for is subgrades. I don't know why you would send any cards to CGC and not have subgrades. Well, that's not really a great argument or a great, thing to say because there are a lot of cards that are worth grading, but at the time, the $5 subgrade fees might have made those cards not really worth it. And yeah, that's probably an argument that's going to have a lot of conjecture on each side. Are there cards that are worth having subgrades? Yes. 110 million% yes. There are definitely cards that are worth it, but there are also some cards that really aren't worth it. But just because they're not worth getting subgrades for doesn't mean they're not worth having graded. So, that's definitely where I lie when it comes to subgrades, is that some cards, yes, are very worth it. And you're going to have to make that choice on an individual basis, on a card by card basis. And hopefully by now you understand which cards are worth doing subgrades for. But, there's also some other things that CGC are doing, which I'm not super in favor of, and that's that they won't be charging your credit card until the submissions get entered in with the grades. So you submit your cards, they get graded, then CGC bills your credit card. And this is just a personal thing that I enjoy my credit card getting billed right away, because it takes so long after they bill your credit cards to get your cards back that you almost mentally forget that you paid those grading costs. And that's maybe a psychological thing for me. And I definitely could see how other people could be on the other side of the fence for that. But, also real quick, just so you guys know, any investment advice that I ever give you on this channel, I am not an investment advisor. So take everything with a grain of salt, please. But as I said earlier in this video, you got to understand your history to understand the present. And, I talked about GMA. Well, when they increased their price, there was also a window of time that if you sent cards to them, you were still grandfathered in under the old current prices. And guys, CGC is doing the exact same thing until February 16th. If you have any cards at home right now, I don't care what service you're going to use, especially if it's bulk, submit your cards before February 16th. And if you look at what it says on their website, cards that are received by February 16th will be eligible for that old price structure. So just make sure your packages are at CGC before then, because especially with bulk submissions, if you're going to submit 100 cards, which is a pretty average bulk submission, or even $50, you're talking a huge change in dollar amount. $100, $50, 150, 200, whatever dollar amount you're going to save. And then on top of that, if you're going to do subgrades, you could be potentially talking hundreds of dollars in savings just by submitting your cards a little bit earlier than maybe you were planning on it. So please be smart, pull the trigger. And I'm going to let everyone out there right now know, if you haven't graded cards in the past, do not be afraid to grade cards. You don't have to be afraid. It's not hard. It's not a hard process. It's a very easy process. And it's a fun process too. You know what? You get all those cards back. You know what you're submitting. You're going to get much better as an all-around collector investor if you start to understand condition, quality of cards, and it will allow you to enjoy your collection better and be a better buyer for raw cards in the future once you submit enough cards for grading and you get enough grades back that you'll start to really, almost become a grader yourself, in the fact that you'll be able to pick up a raw card and instantly know what grade that card's going to receive. And that's very important in this hobby, is understanding condition. And I did make that video in the past where I showed that one guy who sent away a card to PSA, got a PR1, the lowest grade PSA gives. And he thought he was going to get a 6. You know how crazy that is? But that was a realistic move that somebody had done in this hobby, because that's how unfamiliar they were with graded cards. The more cards you send away, the more grades you get back. And just trust me, guys, it's worth it. Do it. Don't be afraid. If you do have questions, I would be pretty surprised because the process is pretty easy. CGC's website's not the best to input cards because there's a lot of like back and forth, but it's not hard. So definitely do it. Even if it's just a few cards and you just want to test out, the actual process. Once you start doing this, and especially if you're in the market for buying graded cards, just, pull the Band-Aid off. Start sending your own cards out. Eventually you'll get those submissions back. Trust me, guys. 30 days, 60 days, however long CGC's real true turnaround time is right now. Yeah, it might say 60 days, but it will feel like an eternity to you. And that's not a bad thing, because if you have multiple submissions there at one time, eventually they'll just start trickling back into you one at a time, and it'll be very rewarding for you in the long run. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, thank you. Please support the channel by liking this video. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm to upvote this video. If you haven't had a chance, please subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.